The evening air held a hint of autumn as Lily Park hurried through the staff entrance of the Silver Spoon, one of New York's most exclusive restaurants. She was running late again, having spent an extra 30 minutes at her mother's bedside at the care facility. Her boss wouldn't be happy, but she couldn't bring herself to cut those visits short. Those precious moments with her mom were worth whatever scolding awaited her. "You're cutting it close, Lily," said Vince, the head waiter, as she rushed to her locker. He wasn't angry, more concerned. In the 3 years she'd worked there, she'd earned a reputation for reliability despite her occasionally tight timing. "Sorry," she said, quickly tying her hair back and straightening her uniform. Mom was having a good day. "I couldn't just leave." Vince nodded, understanding in his eyes. Most of the staff knew Lily's story, how she'd put her life on hold when her mother got sick, dropping out of her second year at the prestigious Manhattan School of Music where she'd earned a full scholarship. What they didn't know was how deeply the loss of that dream still cut her. "Just so you know," Vince lowered his voice, "Harrison Kingston is here tonight." Lily froze midway through buttoning her vest. "The tech billionaire?" "The very same. Table 7. He's with a bunch of investors and some famous pianist he's sponsoring. Be extra careful, okay? He's known for being particular." Great. Just what she needed after an emotionally draining visit with her mom. Harrison Kingston wasn't just any billionaire. He was famously interested in classical music. His foundation funded conservatories across the country, sponsored competitions, and launched the careers of promising musicians. Once years ago, Lily had dreamed of catching the attention of patrons like him. "Thanks for the warning," she said, pinning on her name tag. The dining room hummed with expensive conversation and the gentle clink of silverware against fine china. The soft lighting caught on jewels and watches worth more than Lily would make in a year. She moved between tables with practiced grace, refilling water glasses and delivering appetizers. She couldn't help sneaking glances at table 7. Kingston sat at the head like a king holding court. He was younger than she expected, maybe 40, with salt and pepper hair and sharp features. His laugh never reached his eyes, which remained calculating even while his mouth smiled. Beside him sat a slender woman with elegant hands that Lily recognized immediately as those of a pianist. "That's Sophia Kazan," whispered Dina, another server, noticing Lily's interest. "Kingston just signed her to an exclusive 3-year contract." Lucky girl, Lily felt a pang in her chest. That could have been me in another life, she thought, then immediately pushed the feeling away. Self-pity wouldn't pay her mother's medical bills. "Table 9 needs their check," she said instead, moving back to her section. The night progressed smoothly until it didn't. Lily was carrying a tray of water glasses to Kingston's table when a busboy backed into her path. She swerved to avoid him, but her sudden movement sent the tray tilting. She managed to steady it, but not before a splash of water escaped one glass, landing squarely on the sleeve of one of Kingston's guests, a stern-looking man with wire-rimmed glasses. "I'm so sorry." "Sir?" Lily said immediately, setting down the tray and grabbing a napkin. "Please let me. Is this what passes for service here?" The man interrupted, his voice carrying through the restaurant. Conversations halted. Heads turned. "It was an accident, Mr. Blackwell," she said softly, dabbing at his sleeve. "I'll get you a fresh napkin. Do you have any idea what this suit costs?" Blackwell continued, clearly enjoying the audience. "I believe it's her job to carry water, not wear it." Kingston spoke up, his voice smooth and amused. The table chuckled obligingly. Lily felt heat rising in her cheeks but kept her expression professional. "I apologize for the inconvenience. I'll have another server attend to your table for the rest of the evening." She was about to back away when Kingston's eyes fell on her name tag. Something changed in his expression. A flicker of recognition, perhaps curiosity. "Park," he said thoughtfully. "Any relation to Sanjay Park?" Lily stiffened. Her mother's maiden name. Her mother had been well known in certain circles before she married Lily's father and took his surname. "My mother," she answered, surprised he would make the connection. Kingston leaned forward slightly. "The Sanjay Park who was a piano prodigy in South Korea? Who studied at Juilliard?" The restaurant seemed to fade away. How did this man know her mother's history? "Yes, that's her." "Interesting," Kingston said, studying her as if she were a puzzle. "And you're waiting tables instead of following in her footsteps?" The question stung more than he could know. "Life takes unexpected turns, Mr. Kingston." "Indeed it does," he replied, then glanced toward the corner of the restaurant where a grand piano sat, more decoration than instrument most nights. "Do you play, Ms. Park?" "I used to," she answered carefully. Kingston's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Used to? Talent like that doesn't simply disappear. Unless, of course, it was never really there." Sofia Kazan, the pianist, shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. "I should get back to my tables," Lily said, desperate to escape the sudden spotlight. "Actually," Kingston said, raising his voice slightly so neighboring tables could hear, "I'm curious now. We have a perfectly good piano gathering dust. Perhaps Ms. Park could provide us with some entertainment to make up for the, dampened evening." Lily's blood ran cold. "I don't think that would be appropriate, sir." "Nonsense," Kingston waved dismissively. "I'm sure your manager would agree that customer satisfaction is paramount here." As if summoned, Roberto, the restaurant manager, appeared at Lily's side. His smile was fixed, his eyes pleading. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, though it was clear he'd heard everything. "Not at all," Kingston replied. "I was just suggesting that your waitress might favor us with a performance. That piano looks terribly neglected." Roberto turned to Lily, desperation plain on his face. The Silver Spoon depended on its reputation among the wealthy and powerful. A bad review from Harrison Kingston could hurt them badly. "It's been years," Lily whispered to Roberto. "Just one piece," he whispered back. "Please, Lily. He's our biggest client this month." Lily looked around the restaurant. Everyone was watching now. The other servers, the kitchen staff peering through the door, the wealthy diners, all eyes were on her. Kingston sat back in his chair, clearly enjoying the drama he'd created. "Fine," she said at last, her voice barely audible. She walked slowly to the piano, her legs feeling like they belonged to someone else. 3 years. It had been 3 years since she'd really played. Apart from occasionally picking out melodies on the ancient upright at the care facility during visits with her mother. The piano bench felt foreign as she sat down. She adjusted it slightly, an old habit, and lifted the fall board to reveal the keys. They gleamed in the restaurant's soft lighting, ivory and ebony, familiar yet strange. She placed her hands on the keys but didn't press down, feeling the cool smoothness beneath her fingertips. What should she play? Her mind raced through the pieces she once knew by heart. Would her fingers remember what her mind had tried to forget? She glanced up and saw Kingston watching her, a satisfied smirk on his face. He thought she would embarrass herself. Maybe she would. Her gaze drifted to the window where the city lights twinkled against the darkening sky. She thought of her mother, who had given up her own promising career to raise her daughter in a new country, who had worked multiple jobs to pay for Lily's lessons, who now barely recognized her on most days. "Whenever you're ready, Ms. Park," Kingston called out, impatience edging his voice. "Unless, of course, you've forgotten how." Lily closed her eyes, breathed deeply, and remembered her teacher's words from long ago. "The piano doesn't care about your fears or your pride. It only cares about your truth." With trembling fingers, she placed her hands on the keys and prepared to play. At the table, Kingston leaned toward Sofia Kazan. "This should be entertaining," he murmured, not bothering to keep his voice down. Nothing like watching someone confront their failed potential. But Sofia wasn't looking at him. Her eyes were fixed on Lily's hands, a strange expression on her face, part professional curiosity, part sympathy. She alone in that room might understand what it meant to be put on display this way, to have your most private passion turned into public spectacle. Lily's fingers hovered over the keys for one more moment of hesitation. The restaurant had gone completely silent, and then she began to play. The first notes came hesitantly, like a person testing thin ice. Lily chose Debussy's Clair de Lune, a piece she had once played so often that her mother joked it had become part of their family. The familiar melody felt like finding an old friend. Her fingers stumbled slightly on the opening phrases. 3 years of serving plates instead of playing scales had left their mark. She could feel Kingston's smirk from across the room, could sense the mixture of pity and secondhand embarrassment from the diners. But then something shifted. Perhaps it was muscle memory taking over, or perhaps it was the simple act of connection with the instrument she had once loved so deeply. The hesitation fell away. Her back straightened. Her wrists relaxed into their proper form. The gentle, rippling notes of Clair de Lune began to fill the restaurant properly now. The piece was like moonlight itself, delicate yet powerful, illuminating the darkness without harshness. Lily closed her eyes, letting herself be carried away. For the first time in years, she wasn't thinking about medical bills or work schedules or her mother's blank stare on bad days. She was simply playing. At Kingston's table, the conversation had died. The billionaire's expression had shifted from smug anticipation to something more complex. Beside him, Sophia Kazan was completely still, her wine glass forgotten in her hand. Lily finished the piece with the gentle final notes that seemed to evaporate into the air rather than end decisively. For a moment, no one moved. No one spoke. She kept her eyes closed, not ready to return to reality, not ready to see the judgment on their faces. Then came the applause. It started tentatively, a few pairs of hands, then grew until the whole restaurant was clapping. Lily opened her eyes, startled by the response, but Kingston wasn't clapping. He was watching her with a calculated expression. "Not bad for a waitress," he called out when the applause faded, a bit rusty on the technical side. "But Debussy is easy enough, isn't it? Child's repertoire, some might say." The warmth that had briefly filled Lily turned cold. She'd forgotten how cruel the music world could be, how quick to judge, how eager to tear down. "Perhaps something more challenging," Kingston continued, his tone making it clear this was no request. "Unless that's all you remember?" Roberto, the manager, was hovering anxiously at the edge of the dining room, clearly torn between protecting his employee and pleasing his important customer. Lily's hands clenched briefly in her lap. She should walk away, return to her tables, accept the humiliation and move on. That's what the last 3 years had taught her, how to swallow pride, how to endure. But the piano bench still felt like home, even after all this time. Without responding to Kingston directly, she placed her hands back on the keys. If he wanted a challenge, she would give him one. Her fingers began the first thundering chords of Beethoven's Appassionata Sonata. This was no Moonlight on Water. This was Storm and Fire and Defiance. It was one of the most technically demanding pieces she had mastered before her life changed, and she hadn't played it since. Some passages were beyond her current ability, she knew that, but she didn't care. She attacked the keys with all the frustration of dreams deferred, of talent sidelined, of potential unfulfilled. When her fingers faltered on a particularly difficult run, she didn't stop or apologize. She pushed through, capturing the spirit of the piece even when her technique couldn't quite match her memory. At one point, she risked a glance at Kingston. He was leaning forward slightly, his brow furrowed. Beside him, Sophia was watching Lily's hands with an intensity that bordered on hunger. The final movement of the sonata was beyond her current abilities. She knew that. Rather than embarrass herself trying, Lily transitioned smoothly into the ending of the first movement, bringing the piece to a close with as much authority as she could muster. This time, the applause was immediate and enthusiastic. One elderly gentleman at a corner table stood up, his napkin still tucked into his collar. Others followed suit. It wasn't a standing ovation, not quite, but it was more recognition than Lily had received in years. She rose from the bench on shaky legs and gave a small, awkward bow. All she wanted now was to disappear into the kitchen, to process what had just happened in private. But Kingston's voice cut through the applause. "I don't believe we're finished, Ms. Park." His tone was pleasant enough, but there was steel beneath it. "You've shown us you can play the classics adequately. What else do you have for us?" Lily turned to face him directly. "I think I've fulfilled your request, Mr. Kingston. I should get back to my actual job." "Your job," Kingston replied, "is to ensure the satisfaction of the customers. And I'm not satisfied yet." Roberto stepped forward, his smile strained. "Perhaps we should let Lily return to her duties." "I'm happy to cover her tables," offered Dina quickly. Several of the other servers nodded. They were enjoying watching Kingston challenged, even if subtly. Kingston's eyes never left Lily's face. "One more piece, Ms. Park? Something original, perhaps? Or is interpretation your only skill?" The question hit its mark with painful accuracy. During her time at music school, composition had been her weakness. She could play anything put in front of her, but creating her own music had never come easily, except for one piece. During the darkest days after her mother's diagnosis, when sleep wouldn't come and worry ate at her like acid, Lily had found herself at the practice rooms at midnight. With no one to hear, she had let her hands wander over the keys, giving voice to her fear, her grief, her anger. Over weeks, those wanderings had taken shape, becoming a piece that was technically simple but emotionally complex. She had never played it for anyone. It wasn't written down. It existed only in her memory and her heart. Well? Kingston's voice pulled her back to the present. Or have we reached the limit of your abilities? Lily returned to the piano, her decision made. If Kingston wanted to strip her bare to make a spectacle of her, she would show him exactly who she was. No pretense, no performance, just truth. She began to play her nameless composition. The opening was quiet, thoughtful, like early morning reflections. Then came a section of growing unease, dissonant chords that never quite resolved, mirroring the dread of waiting for test results, for doctors' verdicts. The middle movement was chaos, angry, jarring notes that crashed against each other like waves against rocks. This was the sound of plans crumbling, of scholarships declined, of instruments packed away. It was the sound of a hospital room with its beeping monitors and squeaking shoes on linoleum. Then, slowly, the storm subsided. The final section was neither triumphant nor defeated. It was acceptance, resilience, the discovery of strength previously unknown. The melody became simpler but somehow more powerful, like a voice that has been through screaming and crying and emerges quieter but more resolute. As she played the final notes, a question without an answer, hanging in the air, Lily realized her cheeks were wet. She hadn't meant to cry. She brushed away the tears quickly as the piece ended. The restaurant was utterly silent. No applause this time, just stillness. Lily stood up, not meeting anyone's eyes. "If you'll excuse me," she said quietly, and walked toward the kitchen. No one tried to stop her. Not even Kingston. In the back hallway, out of sight of the diners, she leaned against the wall, breathing hard. What had she done? She'd probably just lost her job. Roberto couldn't ignore such a public display, especially if Kingston complained. Lily. Vince was beside her, concern written on his face. "Are you okay?" She nodded, not trusting her voice. He seemed at a loss for words. "I had no idea you could play like that." "Neither did I anymore," she admitted. "Is Roberto furious?" "Actually," Vince glanced back toward the dining room. "You might want to come see this." Confused, Lily followed him to the kitchen door, which offered a partial view of the dining room. Kingston was on his feet, speaking intently to Sophia Kazan. The pianist was nodding, her eyes periodically darting to the kitchen as if looking for Lily. "What's happening?" Lily whispered. Vince shrugged. "Don't know. But Kingston asked Roberto for your full name and information about when your shift ends." A cold knot formed in Lily's stomach. Had she angered the billionaire so much that he wanted to ensure she was fired? Would he go so far as to try to blacklist her from other restaurants? "Don't look so worried," Vince said, misreading her expression. "This could be good, right? Maybe he wants to offer you something, a job playing somewhere fancy." Lily shook her head. "You don't understand how these things work. Men like Kingston don't like being shown up, especially not by the waitstaff." At that moment, Roberto pushed through the kitchen doors, his face unreadable. "Lily, you should take your break now. 20 minutes. Roberto, I'm sorry about what happened out there." He held up a hand. "We'll discuss it later. For now, just take your break." As Lily untied her apron, she caught sight of Kingston through the kitchen window. He was on his phone now, pacing near the entrance, his face intense with purpose. Whatever was coming next. Lily knew one thing for certain. Her life had just changed again, for better or worse. Lily sat in the small break room, a cup of lukewarm tea untouched before her. Her hands were still trembling, not from fear now, but from the rush of playing again after so long. It was like finding a piece of herself that had been locked away, a door she'd been afraid to open. The staff door swung open and Dina slipped in, her eyes wide with excitement. "You won't believe what's happening out there," she said, dropping into the chair across from Lily. "Kingston is asking everyone about you. Where you studied, how long you've worked here, everything." Lily's stomach tightened. "Why would he care? Are you kidding? You just played like... Dina gestured helplessly. "I don't know much about classical music, but even I could tell that was something special. Especially that last piece." "What was it?" Lily looked down at her hands. "Nothing. Just something I made up." "You made up that piece?" Dina leaned forward. "Lily, when were you going to mention you're a musical genius?" I'm not, Lily said firmly. I used to be good. Not great. That's why I was at Manhattan School of Music, not Juilliard. Well, whatever you call it, Kingston is impressed. And that pianist with him, Sophia, she keeps asking about you too. Lily shook her head. They're probably just curious why someone with conservatory training is waiting tables. Maybe, Dina admitted. But Kingston doesn't strike me as the type who cares about some random waitress's life story, unless there's something in it for him. Before Lily could respond, Roberto appeared at the break room door. His expression was a mixture of concern and something else, excitement maybe. Lily, Mr. Kingston would like to speak with you. Her break had barely started. Now? He's quite insistent, Roberto said. He and Ms. Kazan have moved to the private dining room for privacy. He lowered his voice. Whatever he wants, be polite. The Silver Spoon can't afford to lose his business. Lily nodded, though her mind was racing. What could Harrison Kingston possibly want with her? To apologize for putting her on the spot? Unlikely. To offer her a job? Even more unlikely. Men like Kingston didn't pluck waitresses from obscurity after hearing them play one time. The private dining room was separated from the main restaurant by frosted glass doors. Lily knocked softly before entering. Kingston and Sophia Kazan sat at the small round table, two untouched glasses of wine before them. They appeared to be in the middle of a heated discussion that stopped abruptly when Lily entered. Ah, Ms. Park, Kingston said, gesturing to the empty chair. Please join us. Lily remained standing. I'm still on shift, Mr. Kingston. If this won't take long. Sit down, he said. Not unkindly, but with the automatic authority of someone used to being obeyed. Your manager understands this takes priority. Reluctantly, Lily took the offered seat. Up close, Kingston was more intimidating than she'd expected. His gaze was analytical, as if he were calculating her value down to the penny. You have an unusual story, he began. Sunja Park's daughter, trained at Manhattan School of Music, and now serving overpriced salmon to people like me. Care to explain? Lily stiffened. With all due respect, my personal history isn't relevant to your dining experience. Kingston laughed, genuinely amused. Oh, I disagree. Your personal history just became the most interesting part of my evening. He leaned forward. You left school suddenly. Second year, if I'm not mistaken. You were on a performance scholarship. Why throw that away? How do you know all this? Lily asked, unsettled by his knowledge of her life. I make it my business to know about promising musicians. Your mother had quite a reputation before she married and disappeared from the concert scene. You were starting to make a name for yourself too. Until I wasn't, Lily said flatly. Sophia spoke for the first time, her voice softer than Lily expected. Was it financial? Many talented students can't afford to continue even with scholarships. Something in the woman's tone made Lily answer honestly. Partly, my mother got sick. Early onset Alzheimer's. The symptoms started when she was only 48. The words felt strange to say aloud. She rarely discussed this with anyone. The scholarship covered tuition but not living expenses, not her care. I had to choose. Kingston's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. And you chose family over art. I chose responsibility, Lily corrected. There was no choice, really. There's always a choice, Kingston said. Some people would have pursued their talent at any cost. Some people aren't me. For the first time since entering the room, Lily felt steady, certain. I don't regret it. Even though you're serving food instead of performing, even though your hands are more familiar with carrying plates than playing Beethoven. Lily met his gaze directly. Even then, an odd silence fell. Sophia was watching her with an expression that might have been respect. Kingston broke the tension, sitting back in his chair. That last piece you played, what was it? Nothing. Just something I play sometimes. You composed it. It wasn't a question, but Lily nodded anyway. Have you written it down? Recorded it? Shared it with anyone? She shook her head. It's personal. It's marketable, Kingston corrected. With the right arrangement, the right promotion, it could be quite successful. People love a story, Ms. Park. The waitress pianist with the sick mother, playing her heart out in a restaurant. It practically sells itself. Lily felt suddenly cold. My mother's illness isn't a marketing hook, Mr. Kingston. Everything is a marketing hook if you're smart about it. He pulled out his phone and tapped something into it. The Kingston Foundation sponsors 10 musicians a year. Full funding, Professional development, performance opportunities. Sophia here is one of our current protégés. Lily glanced at the pianist, who offered a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. We have one spot remaining for this year's cohort, Kingston continued. Based on what I heard tonight, I'm prepared to offer it to you. Lily's breath caught. This couldn't be happening. Things like this didn't happen in real life, especially not to people like her. Why? She asked before she could stop herself. Kingston raised an eyebrow. Why what? Why would you offer something like that to someone you just met? Someone who hasn't played seriously in years, who has obvious technical issues, who hasn't completed her training. Because I recognize potential when I hear it, Kingston said simply. And because I never make the same mistake twice. What mistake? Kingston exchanged a glance with Sophia before answering. Years ago, I was approached about sponsoring a young pianist from Korea who had recently moved to the States. Sunjali she was then, before she married your father and became Sunja Park. I declined. She didn't fit the image I was cultivating for my foundation at the time. His mouth twisted slightly. 6 months later, she won the International Chopin competition. I've been more careful about my assessments since then. Lily stared at him, processing this new information about her mother. She never mentioned that. Would it have mattered? Kingston asked. The point is, I'm offering you what I denied your mother. A chance. Full sponsorship. We'd start with intensive training to get you back to performance level, then smaller venues building to a proper debut. And in return, Lily asked because there was always a catch. Exclusivity. The foundation gets 10% of all performance fees and recording rights for the first 5 years. You play where we say when we say what we say. Including my own composition? Lily asked. Especially that, Kingston nodded. With professional arrangement, of course. Sophia leaned forward. It's a standard contract, Lily, the same one I signed. It's a good opportunity. Something in Sophia's tone made Lily look at her more carefully. The pianist was saying the right words, but her eyes held a warning. I'd need time to think about it, Lily said slowly. Kingston frowned. The offer expires when I leave this restaurant. I don't do extended negotiations, of course he didn't. Men like Kingston were used to people jumping at their commands, grateful for whatever crumbs fell from their table. Then I appreciate the offer. But I can't accept, Lily said, rising from her chair. If that's all, sit down, Kingston said, his voice sharper now. You're not understanding what I'm offering you. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Maybe, Lily acknowledged. But I need to speak with my mother about it. And review the contract with someone I trust. If that means the opportunity passes, then it wasn't meant for me. Kingston stared at her for a long moment, then laughed abruptly. You really are Sunja's daughter, aren't you? She was just as stubborn. He pulled a business card from his pocket and slid it across the table. Fine, you have 48 hours. My private number is on the back. Call me when you've made the smart decision. Lily picked up the card, nodded to both of them, and turned to leave. Ms. Park, Sophia called after her. When Lily looked back, the pianist hesitated, then said, Would you mind if I visited your mother's care facility tomorrow? I'd like to meet her. I studied her recordings when I was younger. Kingston looked surprised by the request. She's not always present, Lily cautioned. But yes, that would be nice. Thank you. Outside the private dining room, Lily leaned against the wall, the business card clutched in her hand. Was this really happening? After 3 years of putting her dreams aside, was the universe suddenly offering her a second chance? It seemed too perfect, too convenient, and something about the look in Sophia's eyes made her wonder what wasn't being said. What would she discover if she looked beyond the glossy surface of Kingston's offer? One thing was certain, the next 48 hours would change her life one way or another. The Sunrise Care Center was quiet the next morning. Sunlight filtered through the large windows, casting warm patches on the worn carpet. Lily sat beside her mother in the small garden area, holding her hand. Sunja looked peaceful today, her face turned toward the light, though her eyes held that familiar distant look. I played piano last night, Mom, Lily said softly, at the restaurant. For people. She squeezed her mother's hand gently. It felt good. Scary, but good. Her mother didn't respond, but Lily continued anyway. These one-sided conversations had become routine over the past year as the disease progressed. The doctors said it was still important to talk to her, that somewhere inside her mother might understand more than she could express. Someone offered me a chance to play again. Professionally. Lily studied her mother's face for any reaction. It's the kind of opportunity I used to dream about, the kind you always wanted for me. The only response was the soft sound of her mother's breathing. But I'm not sure, Lily continued. Something doesn't feel right about it. About him, she sighed. I wish you could tell me what to do. She already did. Lily turned, startled by the voice. Sophia Kazan stood in the doorway of the garden area, a small bouquet of daisies in her hand. I'm sorry, Sophia said, stepping forward. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. The receptionist said I could come back here. Lily nodded, gesturing to the empty chair on the other side of her mother. It's fine. Mom, this is Sophia Kazan. She's a pianist, too. Sophia sat down, placing the flowers on the small table. Hello, Mrs. Park. It's an honor to meet you. She spoke naturally, without the awkwardness many people showed around Lily's mother. You said she already told me what to do, Lily prompted after a moment of silence. What did you mean? Sophia considered before answering. I studied your mother's recordings when I was training. There was an interview she gave after winning the Chopin competition. Someone asked her how she knew which opportunities to pursue in her career. She glanced at Sunja with genuine respect. She said, I follow the music, not the money. The right path makes your heart sing, not just your wallet. Lily stared at Sophia in surprise. You remembered that all these years? It stuck with me. Sophia's smile turned sad. Though I haven't always followed it. Something in her tone made Lily pause. Are you happy with the Kingston Foundation? Sophia looked around as if checking they were alone. Harrison Kingston is a powerful patron. He can make careers overnight. That's not what I asked. A long silence stretched between them. Finally, Sophia sighed. The foundation opens doors, but those doors come with conditions. What kind of conditions? Lily asked, though she was beginning to suspect the answer. Your contract will look different from mine. More favorable, I imagine. Mine was restrictive. Sophia chose her words carefully. 8 performances a month. No say in repertoire. Limited personal time. Is that why you're here? To warn me not to sign? Sophia looked directly at Lily for the first time. I'm here because when you played last night, especially that last piece, I remembered why I became a pianist. It wasn't to play what someone else dictated, or to be part of someone's collection of talents. It was to speak through music. She nodded toward Sunja. Your mother understood that. I think you do too. But you still work with Kingston, Lily pointed out. My contract has 3 more months. After that, Sophia straightened her shoulders. After that, I'm not renewing. I've saved enough to take some time figure out what I really want. Lily processed this information, trying to read between the lines. What aren't you telling me about Kingston? Nothing scandalous if that's what you're worried about. He's just controlling. He sees talent as something to acquire, to own. Your music becomes his investment and he protects his investments. Before Lily could respond, a soft sound caught her attention. Her mother was humming. A fragmented, halting melody, but one Lily recognized immediately. It was the opening theme from the composition Lily had played at the restaurant. Mom? Lily leaned closer, her heart racing. Mom, can you hear me? Sunja's eyes remained unfocused, but her humming continued, growing slightly stronger. Is that... Sophia began. My piece, Lily whispered. The one I played last night. But how could she? Music reaches places in the brain that words can't, Sophia said quietly. Even for people with memory disorders. Lily felt tears welling in her eyes. For months her mother had barely shown any recognition, any connection to her former self. Yet somehow she remembered the melody Lily had created during those dark nights. The humming faded, and Sunja's expression returned to its peaceful blankness. But something had shifted in Lily's mind, a clarity forming where confusion had been. I need to see Kingston's contract, she said suddenly. The actual terms, not just his sales pitch, Sophia nodded. I thought you might. That's why I brought this. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. A copy of my contract. The Foundation's standard agreement. Yours would be similar, though I'm sure he'd adjust some terms. Lily took the folder, surprised by Sophia's willingness to help. Why are you doing this? Won't Kingston be angry if he finds out? Probably, Sophia admitted. But some things matter more than keeping powerful men happy. She looked at Sunja with gentle eyes. Your mother's recording of Chopin's Ballad No. 1 got me through my first year at conservatory when I wanted to quit. I owe her. And maybe I'm trying to remember who I was before Kingston's Foundation. Lily opened the folder and began scanning the dense legal language. Certain clauses jumped out immediately. Exclusive rights to all compositions. Approval required for all public appearances. Image and likeness rights. "This is basically indentured servitude," Lily murmured. "It's the standard in the industry, just more aggressive," Sophia said. "Most musicians are so grateful for the opportunity they don't question it. And the ones who do," Sophia's expression hardened slightly, "they find themselves with suddenly canceled performances and mysterious equipment failures. Nothing illegal. Kingston is too smart for that. Just the kind of setbacks that can derail a career. So why take the risk of showing me this?" "Because your playing last night reminded me that music should be free, not caged." Sophia stood up, gathering her bag. "I should go. Kingston thinks I'm at a dress rehearsal for tomorrow's concert." As she turned to leave, Lily called after her. "What would you do if you were me?" Sophia paused in the doorway. "I can't answer that. But I will say this. Talent like yours finds a way with or without men like Kingston. The question is, what price are you willing to pay for the path he's offering?" After Sophia left, Lily sat quietly with her mother, watching as the patches of sunlight slowly moved across the floor. Her phone buzzed, a text from Kingston. 24 hours remaining. Contract ready when you are." She put the phone away without responding and took her mother's hand again. "What would you do, Mom?" she asked softly, not expecting an answer. "What would you tell me if you could?" To her surprise, Sanjot turned toward her slightly. For a brief moment her eyes seemed to focus, to truly see Lily. Her lips moved, forming words that were barely audible. "Play. Your music." Then the moment passed, the clarity fading from her eyes. But Lily had heard enough. That evening she sat at the small battered upright piano in the care center's activity room. She hadn't planned to play here, had only come to drop off some personal items for her mother, but the piano had called to her. Her fingers moved tentatively at first, then with growing confidence as she worked through her composition. It wasn't perfect. Parts felt underdeveloped, transitions awkward. But the core of it, the heart of what she wanted to express, was there. She was so absorbed that she didn't notice the small audience gathering in the doorway, residents in wheelchairs, staff pausing in their evening routines, visitors drawn by the music. When she finished, there was a moment of silence, then soft applause. An elderly man with oxygen tubes wiped tears from his eyes. A nurse smiled warmly at her. "That was beautiful," the nurse said. "Do you play here often?" "No," Lily answered, "but maybe I should." As the small crowd dispersed, Lily remained at the piano thinking. Something had changed since last night. The music that had been locked inside her for 3 years was pushing to get out, with or without Harrison Kingston's approval. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was Roberto from the restaurant. "Kingston's table reserved for tomorrow night. He's asking if you'll be working." Lily stared at the message for a long moment, then began to type her response. Whatever she decided about Kingston's offer, she knew one thing for certain. She wouldn't let someone else dictate her relationship with music again. She had spent 3 years putting her dreams on hold. Perhaps it was time to find a new path forward. Not the one she had originally planned, not the one Kingston was offering, but something else entirely. Something that would let her care for her mother and still honor the gift they both shared. Her fingers returned to the keys, finding new melodies, new possibilities. Tomorrow would bring decisions and consequences. But tonight was for music. Her music played her way, for the joy of it and nothing more. And for the first time in 3 years, that felt like enough. The Silver Spoon was busier than usual the following evening. Word had spread about the waitress who had played piano for Harrison Kingston, and curious diners had made last-minute reservations. Hoping to witness something extraordinary, Lily moved between tables with practiced efficiency, ignoring the whispers and glances that followed her. She had made her decision during a sleepless night, weighing Sophia's warnings against the undeniable opportunity Kingston offered. Kingston's table sat empty, though it was past his reservation time. Roberto kept glancing nervously at the door, then at Lily as if she might know something he didn't. "He's not coming," Dina said, sliding next to Lily at the service station. "He called and canceled 10 minutes ago." A mixture of relief and disappointment washed over Lily. Did he say why? Just that something came up. "Roberto nearly had a heart attack." Dina studied her friend's face. "Were you going to accept his offer?" Lily had told Dina everything after her visit to the care center yesterday. "I was going to make a counteroffer," Dina's eyebrows shot up. You were going to negotiate with Harrison Kingston? Bold move. Not as bold as you might think, Lily replied, wiping down a tray. The worst he could do was say no. Or blacklist you from every restaurant in Manhattan, Dina pointed out. Before Lily could respond, Roberto appeared beside them, his expression unreadable. Lily, there's someone asking for you at table 12. Who is it? She wouldn't give her name. Just said she needed to speak with you urgently. Curious, Lily made her way to table 12. A woman in her 60s sat there, elegant in a simple black dress, her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. Something about her seemed vaguely familiar. You wanted to see me? Lily asked. The woman looked up, her keen eyes assessing Lily with unexpected warmth. You look just like your mother did at your age. She gestured to the chair across from her. Please sit down. I'm Eleanor Winters. The name hit Lily like a physical force. Eleanor Winters, the legendary pianist and teacher who had trained some of the greatest musicians of the last 30 years. You knew my mother? Lily asked as she sat, trying to keep her voice steady. She was my student briefly before she returned to Korea to care for her parents. Eleanor's mouth curved in a sad smile. We kept in touch over the years. She was immensely proud of you. Lily swallowed hard. Why are you here? How did you find me? Sophia Kazan called me this morning. She was quite insistent that I come hear you play. Eleanor's gaze was direct, penetrating. She said you have something special. A voice of your own. Sophia called you? Lily couldn't hide her surprise. But Kingston has no idea she contacted me, I imagine, Eleanor finished. Which is why we need to move quickly. Harrison will be furious when he realizes she's gone off script. Gone off script? His planned narrative. The generous benefactor discovering hidden talent. He does love his little melodramas. Eleanor's tone was dry. Sophia was supposed to convince you to sign with the foundation, not send you running to me. Lily's mind raced to catch up. I don't understand. What exactly are you proposing? I'd like to hear you play if you're willing. Not here, somewhere with a proper piano. Eleanor reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. Tomorrow morning. My studio at Juilliard. 10 o'clock, Lily stared at the card, speechless. Eleanor Winters never auditioned unknown pianists. Her master classes had waiting lists years long. Why would you do this for me? Lily finally asked. You don't even know if I'm any good, Sunja's daughter. I have my suspicions. Eleanor's expression softened slightly. And I owe your mother a debt. Years ago, she turned down a prestigious competition to care for her family. I told her she was making a mistake, that talent like hers demanded sacrifice. She shook her head at the memory. She wrote to me later, saying she'd found a different kind of music in the life she'd chosen. I didn't understand then. Perhaps now I can make amends. Lily's throat tightened. I have a shift tomorrow morning. I've already spoken with your manager. He's agreed to give you the time off. Eleanor stood, leaving a generous tip on the table. 10 o'clock, Lily, don't be late. And bring that composition of yours, the one Sophia couldn't stop talking about. After Eleanor left, Lily remained at the table, her mind spinning. What had just happened? What game was Sophia playing? And what would Kingston do when he found out? Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Kingston knows I called Eleanor. Be careful. The next morning, Lily stood outside the imposing Juilliard building, her hands cold despite the warm September air. She hadn't been here since her mother's diagnosis. Though Manhattan School of Music was just a few blocks north, Eleanor was waiting in a spacious practice room with a magnificent Steinway grand piano at its center. The room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lincoln Center Plaza, the morning light streaming across the polished floor. Right on time, Eleanor noted, checking her watch. Good, I detest lateness almost as much as I detest wasted talent. Lily set down her bag, her mouth suddenly dry. I should warn you, I haven't practiced seriously in 3 years. I'm aware of your circumstances, Eleanor replied. This isn't an examination, Lily, it's an exploration. Play whatever you feel comfortable sharing. Lily approached the piano cautiously, almost reverently. It was a far cry from the upright at the Care Center or even the grand at the Silver Spoon. She sat down, adjusted the bench and placed her hands on the keys. She began with Bach, a prelude she had once known by heart. Her fingers found the familiar patterns, though not with the precision she once commanded. From there, she moved to Chopin, a nocturne her mother had taught her as a child. Eleanor listened without comment, her expression unreadable. When Lily finished the nocturne, Eleanor simply nodded for her to continue. Taking a deep breath, Lily began her own composition, the piece she'd played for Kingston, the one her mother had hummed. Here her hesitation fell away. Whatever technical skills she'd lost to time and lack of practice, her emotional connection to this music remained intact, perhaps even deeper than before. When the final notes faded, Eleanor was silent for a long moment. Then she said, "Your technique needs work. 3 years of neglect shows. But your musicality—" She paused, choosing her words carefully. It's rare to hear something truly original. Most young pianists are skilled imitators at best. You have a voice, Lily. Unpolished but genuine. Lily exhaled slowly, not realizing she'd been holding her breath. I'm starting a new program, Eleanor continued. Small, selective. For musicians with unique perspectives. The focus is on original composition alongside traditional repertoire. She fixed Lily with an intense gaze. You would need to commit to rigorous practice. Your technique must be rebuilt from the ground up, but you could continue working part-time and the schedule would accommodate your mother's care. Lily's heart raced. Are you offering me a place in this program? I'm offering you a path, Eleanor corrected. It won't be easy. It won't come with Kingston's money or connections, but it will be yours. Before Lily could respond, the door opened. Harrison Kingston stood there, his expression thunderous. Eleanor, he said coldly, I thought we had an understanding about poaching my prospects. Eleanor didn't even turn to look at him. We had an understanding about not interfering with each other's legitimate business. This young woman hasn't signed anything with you, has she? Kingston's jaw tightened. He looked at Lily. I offered you an opportunity most musicians would kill for. Was that not enough? Lily stood up from the piano bench. It was a generous offer, Mr. Kingston, but not the right one for me. Because Eleanor has filled your head with promises? Do you know how many careers she's launched lately? None. She's a relic of another era. Perhaps, Eleanor said mildly, but I've never owned a musician's voice. Only helped them find it. Kingston turned back to Lily. Think carefully about what you're doing. My offer expires today. Eleanor's program offers no guarantees, no income, no platform. You'll remain in obscurity, playing in care homes and restaurants. For a moment, doubt crept into Lily's mind. Was she making a mistake? Throwing away her one chance at the career she'd once dreamed of? Then she remembered her mother humming the melody of her composition. The residents at Sunrise Care Center, moved to tears by music no one else had heard before. The feeling of playing for the joy of it, not for someone else's approval. Thank you for your offer, Mr. Kingston, she said quietly but firmly. But I've made my decision. Kingston's face hardened. You'll regret this, he said and left, closing the door with controlled force behind him. Eleanor hadn't moved during the exchange, hadn't rushed to defend herself or persuade Lily. He's not entirely wrong, she said after a moment. I can't promise you fame or fortune. I'm not looking for either, Lily replied. I just want to play again, to find out what my music could be. Eleanor nodded, satisfied. Then we begin tomorrow. 6 a.m. Don't be late. As Lily left Juilliard that morning, she felt lighter than she had in years. The path ahead wasn't clear or easy, but it was hers to walk. That evening, she sat beside her mother at the care center, playing her composition on the old upright. She had added new sections, exploring ideas that had come to her during her audition with Eleanor. Her mother sat quietly, eyes closed, occasionally humming along with fragments of the melody. Around them, residents and staff had gathered again, drawn by the music. I'm playing again, Mom, Lily whispered during a pause. Not the way we planned, but I'm finding my way back. Her mother didn't respond with words, but her hand found Lily's on the keys, resting there for a moment in silent understanding. And in that touch was everything Lily needed to know, that some music isn't played on grand stages or recorded in pristine studios. Some music happens in the small moments, in the spaces between struggle and hope, in the courage to begin again after silence. She continued playing, her mother's hand still warm against her own, creating something new from all she had lost and found again.